Hey, everybody, welcome back to Paranormal Chop Shop. And I am here with my co host, Spooky. He's over here. Today
Good evening, everyone.
we have Jenny from Tarot and Tea, and Chad's running a little bit late. He'll catch up soon. He'll be here.
We're blaming this all on Chad.
Yep. Yeah, we've been waiting for him forever.
We've been ready all this whole time. I mean, we were ready an hour ago.
Yeah, we were. So,
Got my
guys,
fingers crossed.
what are we gonna do today? Jenny, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel?
My channel particularly is completely around the tarot and other divination systems like Thoth, oracles, things like that. Had the channel for going on 6 years, probably longer than that. I don't keep track of how long ago it started because it's gone through phases. I've had to delete content and come back and stuff like that. Had a bunch of stuff going on in my life. But yeah, so I do lives every Sunday evening at 6:30 Pacific time. I also add in random videos here and there, different types of sign readings, different types of oracle readings. I review decks. I talk about tarot. I talk about the paranormal. My fiance is exploring with Fluffy, so his channel is predominantly paranormal based, and you can catch me doing paranormal stuff mostly on his channel, but sometimes it kind of rolls over onto mine. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's what my channel is all about.
Well, did you bring guests on your channel, or do you do readings for?
I haven't done that yet. It's something that I'm working on. I'm too much of a Capricorn, so I like to pre-plan pretty much everything, and I want it to roll out a specific way. So I've been thinking about how I want to incorporate guests and stuff like that. So it is pending for the future that I will be.
Well, and yeah, when you do your readings, do you do them like out of chat? As I know a lot of the people that
I do based off of the zodiac signs. If I was to do it by the chat, I'd be there all night long, and I have a super busy life schedule. So I kind of just do a weekly all signs reading, which is per your zodiac sign, your sun, your moon, your ascending sign, whichever one resonates with you. I do a reading based off of that. And if it resonates with you, cool. If it doesn't, maybe next week it will.
I see how it works now. I know the some of the people that do the readings from chat, they are on there for a long time.
They're on there for a long time. They'll do lists and stuff like that, but it is so energy dominating. Like, it's really draining sometimes to do a lot of readings in one sitting. And I do readings personally on my own as per, like, kind of like my side hustle. So I do readings during the day periodically on my own. So to go and spend like 2, 3, 4 hours or sometimes more doing just random readings, and for them to have any type of quality, you have to really get in touch with those energies of the person you're reading with, or the questions they asked, or anything like that. And to have that influx and variable of energies going for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, like, that will give even the most seasoned reader, fatigue. So being a mom, being a fiance, things like that, having a daytime job, having just a ton on my plate already, there's just no way I could do that and have it be with any type of, like I said, decent quality, or have any true genuineness to them.
I understand. And but you said you were thinking about having guests on.
I think eventually, like I said, that's why, I'm kind of like, how do I want to do this and have it be the way I perpetuate it to my channel. So I don't know if I'm going to invite somebody into a reading for them, or, demonstrate readings. I wasn't quite sure how I really wanted to incorporate having guests on, or it might just be other readers and we would do some type of round robin style reading. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do that as of yet. But I do know that in the future, I do want to broaden the channel and incorporate other people in.
Have you ever done anything paranormal with
Absolutely.
like with like ghost hunting or UFOs?
Both.
Have you
Both.
have?
Oh,
Have
Yes.
you ever had contact with anything? or made
With
contact?
UFOs specifically, I have one of my best friends out in Arizona. His name's Robert, and he worked in a metaphysics shop with me, and he was really good about about making contact with, I guess, for lack of better terms, aliens, but anything, spatial, paranormal based, or anything like that. And he was really good about understanding it, understanding the energies that correlate between those situations. So he prided himself on being able to call down UFOs. And we were out in the desert one night, and he's like, "Watch, I'll prove it to you. You will see something tonight." And we did see some stuff go across the sky. Could I explain it? No, but I'm also not extremely knowledgeable in it, so I wouldn't be able to debunk it or anything like that. um UFOs, cryptoids, they're not really my strongest point. I have about as much information as anybody else who is familiar with them via YouTube or anything else like that. Paranormal based, as far as like spiritual contact, ghost, mediumship, stuff like that, that goes way deep into me. I've been doing that stuff since I was about 5 years old.
And you said you've seen it, but you can't tell what it is. Is it because it's
It's not something that I would have been able to say that's genuinely a UFO, but it was not something that I was familiar with. And I live near Air Force bases. I've lived near a lot of different things where I could almost tell you, like, nah, that's Air Force, or that's a plane, that's anything like that. This one I couldn't explain just based off of the speed of it and the color changes of it and things like that. So off of my first sight, I could not debunk it. I couldn't make it deem it genuine. I couldn't deem it as, not. So it was interesting. He said it was genuine, but I was just very much like, I could take your word for it, but I'm one of those that I have to kind of do my deduction of reasoning, and I have to actually, based off of what I do know, be able to say that's genuine or that's not genuine. I'm my own personal debunker to the best of my ability, or I'll research it until I can debunk it even further. But that was something that I just couldn't. Like, I'm sure there might have been others that could have seen, or if they were there and had seen it, might have been able to use some scientific approaches to it and say that that wasn't a genuine UFO or anything like that. And there's others that could probably do it a lot better to their own personal critiquing, but I personally couldn't. So all I could speculate on it was that it wasn't something I was familiar with. So it was unidentifiable to me.
Yeah, I've seen a few things, but I always thought I knew what it was.
Right.
And recently I seen two orbs that couldn't be anything else but orbs. And
Right.
we have guys that come on here and tell us the stories about them, and they bring videos.
Mhm.
And I told myself, and it's Josh Casey. Okay, Josh Casey's the one that showed me this stuff first. And he knows Chris Bledsoe, and he sees orbs with Chris Bledsoe. I think it's on Chris's property, somewhere near
Mhm.
where Chris lives. And he showed me the videos, and I believed him 100%. I believed everything he told me after I seen the videos, especially, and
Right.
especially his reaction. I seen his reaction the first time he seen them, and he actually called in on video chat, and I talked to him for a long time. On Valentine's Day night, I seen two orbs. That's all they could have been, was orbs. And my first thought was, holy shit, Josh isn't crazy. And even though I thought I believed him 100%, that was my first thought, was because I seen it for myself, and
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then I told Chad, I said, dude, I can explain it to you, but I don't know how he even explains it, because it's
Right.
unexplainable. It's, I can tell you what I seen, but it's just these
Sometimes it's
flickering
really
lights.
hard to articulate
Yep.
everything from the experience and be like, no, this is what I saw. But if you even don't even know what you saw, it's hard to articulate what you saw or what you think you saw or experienced. So
Yeah. Even though I've seen it in the videos, I still
yeah,
hard to explain. And I seen the exact same thing. It's just
it's different when you're
hard to
there.
put it into words. Yeah, I told Chad the way to understand it is you got to see it for yourself. And
Yeah.
now I feel like I seen it, so everybody's gonna see it. Now
Yeah.
that's how I think. Like, everyone's gonna see this now. Like, if I seen it, I'm for sure everyone else is gonna see this.
Right.
But yeah, once they see it, you'll know. You'll like, oh, that's what it is. You still don't know what it is. it's just these balls of light, and they flicker, and then they didn't really move out of my sight. They flickered until they were gone, and then just disappeared.
Yeah.
And I only seen them from a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, no longer
Well,
than
that
that.
was like when I saw a full body apparition for the first time, and I couldn't really explain it completely. I've articulated it to a few people, but I was like, it didn't scare me as much as it shocked me, because you don't anticipate that that's what it is. That's what you're seeing. And then you kind of freeze in that moment, and I'm sitting there like, okay. And I just accepted it and went and sat down and collected myself. But I was like, I think I just saw this. And other people who had worked in the same building as me was like, oh, you saw this person. He's our residential spirit. And I was like, well, somebody could have clued me in, but I was new at the time. So no, they weren't going to clue me in. I had to have the experience myself, and I sure did.
Yeah, I don't think I've never seen a ghost like that.
It happens when you work in mortuaries and with medical examiners. I'm a mortician by day, so I'm around death pretty much 24/7 in some capacity. So whether it's spirits or actually working with the dead, things like that. So I'm around it all the time.
Yeah, I was an officer at a hospital, and I didn't even like to go in the morgue then. I didn't even like walking in that place. I don't think I'd want to work in there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, there's times where I've done like a 36-hour shift when I worked at the medical examiner's office, and sometimes you're like, am I just that tired that I'm seeing things? And I got to a point where I was like, I could explain it and kind of make myself feel a little bit better or more secure by just saying, oh, you're just tired. You didn't really see anything, or it's just things are getting to you. But that one was the one time I was like, no, I know what I saw. So.
And when you had your first UFO sighting with your partner there, did you, when you saw the lights or the orbs or whatever in the sky, did you have any type of conscious connection or any type of feeling that it gave you?
I will say that it gave me this very, very sincere sense of calm, but at the same time, everything felt so heightened, kind of like static electricity almost. That was the best way I could describe it. Like I was on edge, but not on edge. I was calm through. It's like having a really hardcore anxiety feeling with no anxiety. Like you're on that edge, and everything just feels like you could literally feel energy. It was weird. From the moment, like even like a few seconds before I even saw it physically, I was like, oh, something kind of feels a little different in the air. And then when I did see it, it was like nothing changed. It was no different. But I was like, it just made that situation, that experience way more heightened. Actually physically seeing it. But yeah, the best way I could describe it is that sensation of hair standing up type feeling, but very tingly. And like you were almost excited, like, the consciousness between anxiety of being, excited and anxious is just, the fear of detriment or excitement, or happiness. So it was like a mixture of both. That's the best way I could describe it.
Wow. How about as far as other types of paranormal activity? What do you think stands out or is the most significant thing that's happened to you?
The most significant thing that's happened to me, like I said, when I came into the realm of working in the funeral industry, obviously the experiences I had had in my past were just that much more validated and that much more, they were that much more real for me. Prior to that, it was just stuff that I had experienced, going into cemeteries or just being, your average person who was curious. And I had always had experiences I could always kind of feel, not so much see or hear, but feel. So I'm very much into energies. I can sense things like that, but I don't necessarily hear it. I'm not clairaudient or clairvisual. I'm clairsentient. So emotions and energies is what I feel and how I deduct from there. But I'd go into places and be like, I don't want to be here. Something tells me not to be here. A lot of us have that foreboding feeling or anything like that. I've always had that since I was really small. I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so my older siblings were all growing up in the 80s and all part of that, let's go look for ghosts. Let's go do stuff that's exciting in that realm. So they'd have their friends come over, and my parents would leave me to be babysat by my teenage siblings. And they'd put me in the car, and we'd be driving through cemeteries at night, and they'd have to take me because they were babysitting me. And then they'd have Ouija board parties and all kinds of stuff. Have I been around it my whole life? Absolutely. I've heard ghost stories my whole life. I've experienced things. I've seen shadows. I've, even as a young kid, but I was always told, like, it's normal. It happens. It's nothing to be afraid of. And I was not really afraid of it, but I was very curious. And then as I got older and I started kind of getting into it on my own as a teenager, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have anything. You had to kind of look it up or watch Discovery Channel or something to figure anything out about the paranormal. And so I'd go places into like abandoned houses, and, I'd hear things like, your typical bangs or creaks or anything like that. But then when I started like hearing like whispers in different rooms and stuff, I was like, okay, nobody's really with me. It's just me and my friend. They're not talking. I'm not talking. So who's talking here? And it wasn't anything I could make out, but you could hear the distinct like sounds of somebody, kind of whispering, but you couldn't really discern what they were saying. And I was like, this is kind of creepy. So that's where like my ventures into the paranormal kind of really began on my own. Prior to that, it was like by force because of my siblings. But my mom is very clairaudient. She can hear them. And it's not something she ever told anybody, because growing up Catholic, you don't talk about any of that. So she
That's what I was going to ask you, is how
like,
your
no,
family
it's,
supported this.
It's normal. Don't worry about it. Don't talk about it. So it's just always kind of been something that I've been drawn to. And then when I got into the mortuary business, when I got into funeral business, it was all just more validated.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough when you grow up and, you have to try to explain to people what you're seeing and what you're feeling. And,
some
and then
are
you have a
open
hard
to it
time.
and some are not. And some think you're crazy. Some are excited. And it's just like, do I even bother talking about it anymore? Or do I just keep it to myself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're also processing it yourself as a young person.
Yeah.
So, it would be nice if you could have at least had one person, to tell that would believe you, or at least like, not tell you that you're seeing things, or your imaginary friend is not real.
I just wanted one person to be like, I've seen it too. We don't even have to continue talking about it. Just one person to be like, I've seen it too. And, or I've experienced this too, and it's okay, because you just kind of don't know what to do with these feelings or these thoughts or premonitions or anything. You're just like, I may have experienced. I think a lot of our experiences when we were younger, we weren't even sure if we could give them validity, because there was nothing really there to compare it to or anything like that. So some of us even suppressed those things that we, did I even see anything? You might have, and you might have suppressed it. And because you couldn't talk about it, or you couldn't vocalize it to the proper extent. A 6-year-old kid doesn't know how to explain what they saw, or even younger than that. So could we have been seeing things for a long time? Quite possibly. And we've just suppressed it into the back of our mind. And that's what I kind of feel like I had been doing for a while. And as I got older, so that draw and pull towards it came from that. And, that's kind of the way I've kind of articulated it is, I think we do experience things, and sometimes we suppress it. And so when we want to see it or we want to validate it, we're like, I don't know if I can, I don't know what that was. We automatically go into the section of our mind that says it's a negative or it's a no, versus, hey, that very well could be.
That might be the best I've ever heard anyone articulate what it's like to be young and to be going through this. Oh my gosh, I'm going to steal so much of what you just said. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you in advance, because that was amazing. You're right. And we think that, you're spending all this time trying to tell people, nobody believes you. Everybody says you're crazy. Next thing you know, you go through your life with a nickname like Spooky. And then, now though, as of maybe the last few years, a lot of it has to do with YouTube, these podcasts, community that's building, everybody's supporting each other. Now there's a place to start going. And I think that's why the community is growing so fast.
And I think that's a lot of people like, have you noticed there's more activity in the most recent years? And I was like, there may be, but I think it's mostly like we're able to vocalize it. We're able to show it. And people are now recognizing, like, I've experienced that too. That's happened. That makes sense. That's familiar. So we, it's becoming more to the forefront of our conscious mind than it was, even 10, 15 years ago.
That's why it's become an accepted, right? A collective opening of the consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Brilliant. When you come on and do guests, when you're a guest on talk shows like this, do you do readings?
I have.
Oh yeah, because sometimes we'll have people, oracles, come in here and read and give readings from the cards, and sometimes they're able to give readings for people in our chat room. I don't know if you've ever done anything like that. I don't want to ask you to do too much.
I kind of schedule it to where I'm prepared
Personal.
for that.
Oh, okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
I have done it where I've been invited onto panels, and I knew exactly what they explained to me. Like, we want to invite you on to do like a 15-minute little like mini reading for these 3 people, or just pick some people in the chat and maybe pull a
Right.
card and see what comes up. I've done things like that.
Okay.
But as far as like coming up and doing readings, usually people are like, they're very honest, and they're like, that's what we kind of want to see if we could do with you. And I explain my limitations and things like that, and how deep into them I will allow myself to get, because it is over a stream. So there's a lot more than just one person's energy coming through. So I always kind of give them that preface of, it won't be, it's like when you mix a bunch of stuff together and add water to it, it's very diluted. Or you're not going to get precisely that person's reading. You could be mixing energies. So I kind of throw that out there as a preface. But if I know exactly who I'm reading for and things like that, it makes it a little bit more focused. But yeah, I've done general readings for just like, okay, pick 3 people. The place I used to work for, I worked for a metaphysical shop for a while, and they would do live stream readings where it was like the person handling the camera would select the person and announce the question, and you would just do the reading from there. So we were able to focus a little bit more on just the question, just what needed to come through, versus looking at the chat and stuff like that. But and that kind of worked. So we used to do that every like Thursday, I believe. And I've done that a few times, and it's been okay. But they're just very vague questions, like, am I going to get the job? What is he thinking? How's this weekend going to go? Very, very general. So.
Very cool.
How long did you work in that shop?
I worked for that metaphysical shop for about a year. And then it got, well, when you work for metaphysical stores, they take 50% of everything you make. And then they charge you extra for credit card fees and stuff like that. So you can make decent money. Don't get me wrong. I had $300 days, only working 6 hours. That's not too bad, but, that would mean that I made about $700. So I decided, like anybody else would, can I do this on my own? And be sustainable and not feel like I'm swiping a clock, not feeling like I'm being, looked over my shoulder, because you do have a boss and they do have, criteria you need to be displaying, adding in more minutes and trying to keep them on the phone as long as you can. That's not the type of reader I am. I'm one of those that's like, I'm going to give you a really good reading, and the time may or may not matter. Sometimes I've given a great reading in 15 minutes. Sometimes it takes me 45. I don't want to look at it in the sense of like, I need to put you in a time constraint, because your reading might be more elaborate, or it might be to the point, and if it's to the point, I don't want to hold you on the phone or, over stream any longer than I have to, because that's what's coming through. That's what you need to know. And that's what you need to work with. Sometimes that takes, like I said, 45 minutes. And I don't want people paying for, I'm going to pay you this much money. You're paying for a reading. You're not paying for my opinion. And when you're rushing stuff, you're mostly trying to opinionate it. At least that's how I feel. And so I try to base it in the sense of like, no, you're coming to me for a reason. I'm going to give you what you're asking for. And however long that takes, that's how long it's going to take. But when I say that's the information that's provided, I cut it right there. So some people like that, some people don't. That's just how I work. If you don't like it, there's 1,000 other readers out there you can go to. And they may be great and they may not be. But I'm who I am, and I don't try to sugarcoat it any other way.
I thought it was interesting when you were talking about, you mentioned the funerals. Do you like, what's one of the most memorable ones that you can tell us about?
Depends on like what you mean by memorable. There's some that are memorable for
Which ones
various
like stand
reasons
out
that
to
are
you?
kind of gory, but then there's some that are memorable for the amount of work and what I was able to do with them. But pick a topic and I'll elaborate.
Well, just you know, like what it's like to do that and
Oh,
you know,
okay.
to go through that.
The types of because of the job I do from start to end, from the moment that I receive a loved one to the moment that I'm returning either cremated remains or we're going to the cemetery. I do the whole process, the embalming, the casketing, the cosmetics, everything. I meet with the families, all of that. So the most memorable ones, the ones that will always be hardest are children. They will always be the hardest. Suicides, accidental deaths will always be the hardest in the terms of emotional. They're all kind of emotional, but anytime you're dealing with children or somebody that shouldn't be gone but are, you're dealing with a family that's not eating, sleeping, doing anything for days upon days, and you're having to walk them through the hardest steps that they've ever faced. That's very hard. When I'm dealing with the loved one per se, yeah, I have some emotions towards it, but I keep me separate so that I can work on that person and make them and restore them as much as possible to what they looked like, you know, that the family would remember. And so that part is hard to kind of balance as far as, you know, the ones that are memorable that they will always stick in my head because they were just really, really, they were really dramatic or anything like that. Any type of advanced decomposition bodies are always like, they stick with you for a fairly obvious reason. Anybody that's been removed from water because they kind of just bloat and they're really difficult to restore to a point where you can have an open casket funeral. Anybody that's had severe trauma to the face or anything like that, so your gunshot suicides or anything like that, those can be very difficult because the energy that you get from somebody who's committed suicide is that literal bottom of the barrel energy that is just, I have no purpose, I can't go on. And for me, being clairsentient, I still feel that. So when somebody has committed suicide, it's like they just were at that lowest of low and you can almost still feel it. Well, not almost, you can. And so those are really hard to work with for me, because it's like, you know, what if somebody just had reached out in any way that this person needed? Not, there's not one size fits all, but in the way this person needed, I wouldn't be doing this job right now. Their family would still have them. And so that's kind of that push and pull right there. Those are also hard to work with. Then there's the families that know that grandma or grandpa or whoever was going to go, and they've already said their goodbyes, they've made peace, and they really just want to celebrate their life. So they'll come in and they'll make this like a really good time. Yes, they're crying, but they'll talk about grandma getting drunk at Christmas 10 years ago and she did this. They'll come up with stuff that actually allows them to absorb the situation in a more positive way. So you'll hear people get up there during funerals and just spout some stuff and you start laughing and you want to almost cry with them because those were amazing memories, or really, really funny memories, or really, really awkward memories. And you can just see the different, as a funeral director, you see other people live their lives in front of you or tell the story of their lives almost every day. Every funeral you do, there's a story to be told. So having that moment where you can sit in there and learn about an entire person's life in the span of an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long, is interesting. So I always feel like, you know, I worked on that person and now I'm learning about them even more. I'm meeting their family, their friends. I'm seeing how they interact at the funeral, the types of legacy they've left behind. And that's the part to me that's always the most memorable. And then there's funerals where people fight. There's funerals where people
family feuds.
There's people always somebody getting high in the parking lot. There's always something going on. There's always those moments where you're like, dang, I came to work and didn't have coffee this morning. And what was I thinking? You know? But yeah, there's stuff in blunts in their people's shirt. They're like, nobody's gonna know that we're burying grandpa with his favorite, you know, all kinds of stuff. I've seen porn been slipped into a dirty magazine, an old Playboy magazine slipped into a 90-year-old man's coat pocket.
Oh my gosh.
To be buried with, stuff like that, you know. But hey, it's what people are like, he'd want to go this way, you know. That's the way grandpa always wanted it. And you have to laugh because you know the only
Ah.
thing you're guaranteed in life is that you will die. You might try to live your life every other different way, but ultimately we're all going to pass. So you know you try to make peace with it as much as you can. Even a well-seasoned quote quote death expert, um, I'm still not 100% at peace with the fact that I'm going to go one day, but it's what I'm guaranteed. So I'm trying to make my way towards that. It's interesting to see how other people, and especially cultures, the different types of cultural funerals, those are extremely interesting, from everything from the way they dress the bodies to the food service they'll have afterwards, everything. If you've never seen a gypsy funeral, they're very interesting because they spend the entire day at the graveside. They don't even
Oh,
bury the
wow.
body yet. They'll spend the whole day out there. And they'll have food. They're out there getting drunk. They're out there, you know, doing whatever. Ground's still open, casket's still right there. We just wait till they leave and then we drop everything. But they will spend the whole day with their dead and really living their legacy. And they're very interesting. Chinese funerals are another one that's really awesome. Um, Mormon funerals, they come in from the I guess church. I don't know. I'm not Mormon, so I don't know how to really consider it. But they come in and they dress their own dead. So they will reserve a time so members of the church can come and put the garments on them and stuff like that. So we don't do any of that part. Military funerals, those are also very interesting because we have a point of inspection that we have to do with anybody that's military based. So their commanding officers and people from the base will come to the funeral home and inspect the body at various points, and make sure everything is pristine and perfect. And then at that, they sign everything off and everything. It's a completely different style of funeral for somebody who's active duty. And yeah, so there's a lot that goes on in the funeral industry that's really intriguing and really, cool at some points. It's cool to learn about it, but ultimately, we're in this business because we do some of the hardest stuff in the world, which is giving people their their final hoorah is what I like to say, their final celebration of whatever it may be. Some people don't look at it as a celebration. It's a very mournful time, but ultimately it's your last thing you really have with that person in laying them to rest. So that whole experience from top to bottom is just something that will always stick with you, especially your first one you ever do.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
A lot of people can't. A lot.
No
I get told
way.
that a lot. How do you do
See,
it? And I was like, I don't know how I do it. I can't answer that one. I just do.
I was thinking about how it's a job, but it's also like a real public service that you provide for
Hmm.
people. I mean, you're helping people through such a traumatic time of their lives. I never really gave it much thought about, how you would have to take on so much of that family emotion and be part of the whole, family drama that they're going through. It's amazing that you're able to do that.
Yeah, and we try to be as accommodating as absolutely possible. Because like I said, it is that last respect you give to someone's loved one. And so you want to do everything that they want. Sometimes it's not possible. Timing or situation or whatever, it's just not possible. But you try to do your absolute best. So you are sitting there sometimes, giving them your personal number so that they can call you if they have any questions, but they'll call you at 3 a.m. because they just can't make it through the night. And I've sat there
Oh,
on the phone. I can't tell you how many hours of my life I've sat on the phone,
oh my.
and been there for just to hear them cry it out because they're like, no, I can't do this to my family. I can't call them because they're hurting as well. And you just figure out a way to walk them through. I've even invited people to coffee at 3 a.m. at like a Denny's or a Waffle House or whatever and said, I'll sit with you, because I know that this hurts really, really bad. I've had loved ones pass in my life where you just feel so lost. I think we all have. We've lost somebody where we were just not expecting to lose them, or it hit us really hard. So you can kind of relate in that way. And I've just sat there and said, you don't have to say anything. I'll just sit with you, until you feel okay enough to get through the next day. And I've
Mhm.
done that many times.
Oh,
You just have to be a humanitarian about it. You have to
exactly.
not be in that business mindset 24/7. Sometimes you have to be in that, but you have to a big part of you has to understand. Some funeral directors are very black and white. They're very, that stereotypical thing you see in movies or whatever, just very stoic. I'm not. I relate to them as people just as much as anybody else does. So I look at it as my brothers and sisters in this world that are hurting because they've lost someone they care about. So I go a little bit more above and beyond. And I think more of the modern funeral directors are doing that now and really walking people towards this process instead of just being like, here, pick a casket, pick, your prayer cards. Okay, bye. See you later. No, we follow up with them at the end. We make sure that they're on a proper path for their grieving, or as best path that they can be, getting them, if they need some grieving counseling, we get them in touch with people like that. We follow up, at the 3-month mark, the 6-month mark, and the year mark, but also at Christmas or their death anniversaries or anything like that. We give them a friendly phone call, or we'll send a postcard, anything like that, to let them know, like, we're thinking of you. And, if there's still anything you need, even up to a year and beyond, we try to accommodate for that.
Wow, what a service. Unbelievable. I don't think people realize how much the people
not all of them are the same. Some of them are very much cash cows, and they just are like, yeah, we make great money and we don't care. But I will tell you this much, there are some of the more modern funeral directors that do really put a lot of their heart and soul into it.
Oh yeah. You gotta have people that have their heart in it.
Yeah. There's just, especially in the most recent couple years, there's just been so much that has happened, so many untimely deaths that, you have to have some compassion. You have to have some sincere compassion. So there's been a lot of funeral directors like me who've exhausted themselves to the point of like, I don't know what else to do, because we feel, landlocked in what we were told we could only do and our restrictions and our protocols, but wanting to give families the best that we could. So that's been something that's been heavy in the last couple of years, but it's alleviating a little bit more. It's lightening up a little bit more, but everything's been, difficult, and you have to be there for people that are experiencing these difficult times.
There's been plenty of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you, Spooky, have you ever met on or had to deal with a mortician?
Well, remember I told you my grandpa died right here in this room. So we had a lady from the hospice that was here just to help us with the medicine, and she helped with the whole process of him passing over, and then we had to have the people from the mortuary come out and collect the body. So yeah, I've had to deal with that much of it.
Yeah, I knew one when I worked for the hospital. I would have to be there because I was a security officer. They call it it's I don't know what they call that. It's something officer. It's I just call it security. They give you a gun, so it makes you an officer. But yeah, the guy would come and pick up bodies from the morgue. It's why I hated going there. And that guy was a little short.
You have to be there for us to sign it out and all that and unlock everything. And you can always tell, like, the officers that don't want to be there, they're just like, hurry up. Yeah, get it, go. Like, hurry up. I don't want to be in here.
He was a really funny guy. And yeah, every time I was there, he'd always tell me, you don't like doing this still? And I'd tell him, nope. He would laugh and he'd tell me, you're going to die one day. So you better get used to it. And I'd tell him, just shut up, man. I don't want to talk about it.
You're like, just because you see it every day doesn't mean I need to be reminded.
And yeah, he had me in the morgue one day. There was a tall guy that passed away. This guy is short that that comes to pick him up. He might have been like 5'3". He's a little short guy. And he wanted me to help him. And when he pulled him out of the fridge. So he's in this black bag and he unzips it. And when he did, because you have to get the tags that are on him for me to sign. When he unzipped it, the guy's arm fell out. We're both on the same side of the body, the opposite side of where the arm fell out. He reaches over and grabs it across the guy, and he just jerks it back up onto the body. And Sorry. And from the hand of the corpse, this water flings it flings up all in my face and went in my mouth. I start spitting on the floor, and he's laughing. He thinks it's the funniest thing ever, and he tells me, "Hey, you're gonna be okay," because I was pissed.
No, I'm not.
Mad.
I just
And
got like
he goes,
old
"You're
man
gonna be
juice
okay.
on.
It's just dead guy juice." That's what he told me, and I was like, "Oh, you son of a
Look,
bitch!" He
I
was
will tell you
laughing
this
so
much.
hard, like he.
I've been doing this for years. Fluids still freak me out. I'm like, yeah, put saran wrap around them or so. I don't know. Because see, people don't realize, like, you know, especially if they have IVs, that stuff will drain out of those, it'll ooze out of those open wounds, you know, IV fluids and stuff like that. So yeah, you'll experience things like that, you know, dead bodies fart and stuff like that. You know, they're releasing all that, you know, was as the muscles release, things release. And you never know what you're gonna get into. And yeah, I'm like, nah, that's okay. I don't keep yours to yourself, dude. Like, and I've told bodies that I'm like, don't drip anything on me, please. Oh, I'll double and triple glove everything. I'm like, oh no, come on, please, no. And even during embalming, I'm like, yeah, don't squirt nothing, nowhere.
I think I'd be wearing a hazmat suit.
Yeah, well, even with that on, like you're still like, ugh, like you're. I know that's gross. Very kind of rude to be like, well, but I mean, if you can imagine it as a person, would you want any of that? No, you wouldn't. So we don't either. So some of them are jaded, like they're, especially the older funeral directors. Like one of my mentors was, you know, he's in his like 80s now, but he didn't care. This fool could eat during an embalming. He wouldn't care. And I'm just like, how? Like I can't, but
little guy,
he
dude,
could. He's over there eating noodles and stuff, and I'm doing my job, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, you'll be fine." And I'm like, "Will you?" Because like he's like opened right here, so and you're just eating, and he's like, "I'm used to it." So I think some of them were just different breed, but he even told me, he's like, "You'll get there," and I was like, "I don't think I will," but okay.
That's a good one, Sonny. That's a good story.
That was one of the most horrible
you
things.
You got dead body cookies now.
Right, it's like Ghostbusters. He got slimed.
Oh man, in the mouth, dude. It was just
that would traumatize me. But no, the first time that I had ever worked where I went and did a removal, picked up a body, I opened the bag and I wasn't thinking, right? You know, I went through mortuary, all that. I wasn't thinking that, you know, you're going to open the bag and see eyes glaring at you. I didn't think that. I thought, oh, you know, like in the movies, they close the eyes. No, you can't really close eyes after they died. Like they will open back up. Like your eyelids will not stay down. They just don't. So you open this bag and two big old milky eyes are looking right at, and I screamed the first time. Everybody kind of does. I didn't really scream. I just went like very traumatized. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, because you're not expecting that. Or if you open the bag and you see anything that isn't normal, you know, trauma to the face or anything like that, and you're like, okay, it's a bad day at the office for you. But yeah, like it takes a while to get your bearings. Like it really does. And even working in this you know, type of position for as long as I have, I still get surprises. So I'll go back to the most memorable thing I had ever experienced. To this day, I didn't know a human body could turn bright blue. Okay. Ooh. So I went to go get what is called, it's called memory touch for some places, but they'll do the fingerprints on jewelry and stuff like that for, you know, bereavement gifts and things like that, where you'll have a thumbprint or whatever on a necklace, you know. Okay, so a family decided after the funeral they wanted to do that because they wanted to get some pendants and stuff made. And so my manager called me and was like, oh, can you go down and get, you know, John Doe's fingerprints done? Like, okay. And I knew he had been slated for cremation. He was going to be cremated the next day, so I had to go get it this day. And he had his funeral. He was just in storage because we were backed up a little bit. So he was in there for about 5 or 6 days. I opened the card because he was in the cardboard capsule that we would use for cremation. And I open it and he's bright Papa Smurf blue. I'm not talking like slightly blue. I'm talking toilet bowl blue. like blue.
Whoa.
And I was like, that one made me jump. I was like, what in the is this?
Yeah.
And I called up my manager and I was like, dude, this fool's bright blue. Like, what the hell? And they're laughing. They're like, oh, it's just the oxidization and the, you know, the chemicals we use and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, turn them bright freaking blue? Like, you couldn't have warned somebody that this fool was freaking blue? Like, you dumped him in the toilet? Like, that was traumatizing. And I had to go and get his fingerprints. And I was like, I'm sorry, Papa Smurf, but I don't want to touch you any more than you want to be touched. But
Papa
yeah,
Smurf.
they don't teach you that in embalming school, that people can turn purple and blue. And I'm like,
whoa.
So for the rest of every time I see Smurfs, I'm always like, oh, that guy that died, and I had to get his fingerprint. I call him, and because he had a white beard, so I called him Papa Smurf. So I was like, okay, that was a bit much for me. You know, I've seen bloaters that we've had from taking out of bodies of water, didn't traumatize me near as much as he did. So
if that wasn't the first story that came to your mind when I asked you what was the most memorable thing, you must have seen a lot.
I have. That one's the one that I'll share because it's not as traumatizing, but it was to me because it was up there in that realm of like, that's not anything you ever expect. Like, whoever gets to say, like, have you ever seen a body look like it's been dumped in a toilet? You know, like, he was like bright blue Easter egg, you know, and I was like, so someone did something wrong. This one's like, something's happening here. And they're just laughing, like, and I was like, you know what? I'm too young for this. Apparently, I don't know what I'm doing. And I had been doing this for a few years at that point, and I was like, why is he? Like, someone tell me why he's blue. Like, why is he bright blue? Like, and they're like, oh, it's just the chemicals, and it oxidized, and it's probably. They said it's probably the gases that were in him. If I remember, he was on chemo, so it had a reaction, and it surfaced to his skin in this. I can't even, bright blue, Papa Smurf blue. And I was just, you're thinking someone's pulling a joke on you at that point when you lift that lid and see that. So it was intense. It was interesting. It's as I laugh about it because of the unexpected happening, you know? So.
My goodness. That is something.
Yeah, that's one for the books. That's what I even told people, put that in the damn textbook because somebody else is going to have a heart attack when they see this.
Yeah, there would have been 2 dead people there.
No, and they're like, oh, no, when you see advanced decomposition, you know, where you're seeing, you know, the skin slippage, blah, blah, blah. Skin slippage didn't bother me. None of that really, but I expected that was in the textbook. This was not. So
yeah,
I just couldn't imagine, like, you know, if they had waited on his funeral or something and then they opened the lid and they're, oh, grandpa looks like Papa Smurf, you know, like, how do you present? You cannot color correct this. Like, how do you present this?
Yeah, that's not going to be an open casket.
No, I'd be like, how do you tell somebody, oh, well, we cannot do this because grandpa is bright blue. And you almost have to show the family and then they're going to wonder what the hell you did wrong, you know? But it wasn't one of my cases. It was for someone else. Somebody else is the funeral director for that. But I was like, dude, really? Like, you could have warned me. He was a little blue today. It was an experience. There's always an experience. Some of them are worse than others, but there's always an experience in my industry for sure.
I could imagine that. It's amazing.
So that will live in your minds for the rest of your lives as well. We talked to a mortician, and she said that bodies can turn bright blue.
I have a different way of thinking. I have a different way of thinking, guys, and Spooky knows. Oh, I'll have to say this first. John Belushi, hands down, one of my favorite comedians and heroes. All right. Belushi, and he was a blues brother. Did he turn blue when he died? Was he a real blues brother?
You never know. Yeah, man. This guy looked like he was the front man for the Blue Man group. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm trying to imagine the color blue, which one it might have been.
Yeah, like the Blue Man group, like that color. That was the color, and I'm not even kidding. Like, it's hard to fathom. Like, there's no way. Like, oh, it's just a slight tint. No, he was like opaque. It was just,
man.
Like if you had painted him blue. That's the best I can describe it. With a little bit of variations because of dimension. We'll call it that. So
how about
that was interesting.
in the, when you're doing that job, and you must have amazing energies coming from spirit.
I don't know what's going on.
There's times where I'll be doing a pickup or like a removal or anything like that, and I'll be driving, this person back to the funeral home, and I'll sit there and be like, well, how was your day? Because it's awkward, so I'm always talking to him. And I kid you not, there was one time where I was driving where I saw his wife in my head. Like the person that I was picking up, I saw his wife. I knew what she looked like. Never met this person a day in my life. Didn't even really fully remember his name other from the tag that was on him. And when she came into the funeral home to make arrangements, I saw her. Like I looked at her and I was like, I knew exactly who she was. I knew who she was there for and everything. I knew that was his wife. And it was almost like I had some onset of his memory.
Did you tell
Or
her?
I wanted to, but I didn't know how she would take it. So I kind of kept that one to myself. But I've had those moments where, I had that as a moment. I've also had, there was a little boy that I did a funeral for, and his spirit still kind of lingered around for quite some time after his funeral, around me, like in my home and everything. I was very close with his family too. After I still am to this day. I'm actually going to his mom's wedding this coming summer. But like that little boy was, for some reason, he clung to me. And when my fiance came to live with me, he experienced this little boy energy. Like he saw like what he could see of him and experienced him. And I was like, oh, I forgot to tell you about him. He's been around for a little bit. That's my little buddy. That's how I refer to him, and he's not going anywhere and he's not scary. So get used to it or don't, but he's a part of my life. So, and it was just the way I handled his funeral. He really loved Batman. So I hired a Batman to come to his funeral to kneel in front of his
Aw.
casket. He wanted to be a fireman. I had the local fire department come and bring the fire rig out and everything for his funeral. He loved trains. I was near a train track at that time, and I timed his funeral where the train would come by per the train station schedule. I pulled out every stop for this little boy's funeral. He was hit by a truck. That's how he left this world. And I knew his family and his friends and everybody needed something more to hold on to than his traumatic ending. So I gave him everything I had. And that little ray of sunshine, like I never want him to leave me. Like that's how like attached to this spirit I've gotten. And his subtlety and communication is just very much like, he doesn't let anything bad happen to me. He's actually made me avoid things that weren't good for me, and stuff like that. I've had friendships end that I was like, what happened? And it was like I later found out like, oh, I didn't want any part of that. And so I kind of credit him as being the person that
Oh,
kind of helps me avoid situations that are just that would have been detrimental to me. So I kind of look at him as a little bit of like a little guardian angel in some aspects, but
yeah,
just the
absolutely.
sweetest little energy you could ever imagine.
Wow, that's amazing. What a story. And how about if you ever do come into contact with spirit, you know, do you find it hard or difficult to not talk to the family about it because you don't know how, like you said, they will take it?
How I've always wanted to tell them, like I think I've experienced this with the little
Right.
boy. His mom knows that he will communicate. How she found out was we were doing a spirit box live one time, and she was watching because we know each other on social media and stuff like that. So she knew we were going to be doing this live investigation, and she could hear her son's voice coming through. She heard him, and I heard it
Oh,
at the same time, but I would not like acknowledge that I heard it because I knew she might be watching. And then like right away my phone starts pinging because she's messaging and she's like, I heard him, I heard what he said. And I was like, are you okay? Do you want me to stop? I'll end this, I'll erase everything. She's like, no, 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 keep going. So some of them are very open, but I don't know if I'd ever be like, if I had, if they found out any other way, I don't know if I would have presented it like, hey, I had this spirit box session and I heard your spouse's name or anything. Like, I
yeah.
don't think I would have done that because there is that very gray area of should or should be. should we be doing this or shouldn't be? There's some people in that very strong religious context do not believe in spiritual communication whatsoever. It goes against their principles. Then there's some that are very open spiritually, and some that are just like, no, I'd rather not. They want to know that their loved one is in the hereafter, heaven or whatever. And if they are in heaven, they wouldn't be communicating with us. So I kind of keep it to where their level of comfort is. Because we don't know what happens to us when we pass. We really don't know. So I try to keep it in that lightness of whatever they need to believe in or what they do believe in order to keep themselves going every day. So if I do catch something, unless I absolutely know they're okay with it, if I've had that inclination that they're okay with it, I might say something, but if not, I tend to keep it to myself.
Yeah, that's a very awkward position, I imagine, to be in. Ooh.
Yeah. Because we can't help what comes through. We really can't. Right. And if it's just information that is so specific that we wouldn't know either way, we wouldn't know it any other way other than it came through here. You obviously want to be like, hey, your loved one had this message for you. But some people just, they're blocked to that. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe it, anything like that. And so it puts you in that awkward path of like a possible conflict in providing that information. So I just kind of have learned throughout time, like, if I have it recorded or anything like that, and I find out later on that they might be okay with it, I can always play it back for them. But if not, it's just something that is a communication thing between me and that person, that spirit or whatever. And if in time, like I said, if it's relevant, if they're more open to it or they're more okay with it, I can just pass it along and leave it with them and be like, here, this is for you, and walk away and be like that. But majority wise, if when I do catch something, which isn't often, it's not as often as one would think, but I do keep like interest, hobby versus my professionalism very separate. So you won't see me in my funeral home holding a necrophonic or, a ghost app at all open, because, those spirits are conflicted and confused enough. They just passed. So to use up what energy they do have on their first go, I kind of look at it as being rude. So I try not to engage in that. I try to keep things very separate. Everybody always asks, like, do you go and do investigations in your funeral home? And my quick answer is I do not. For that reason, if I have somebody who just passed away or passed away traumatically, I don't want to scare them any more than they already are. And I do believe that sometimes, if our spirits still are landlocked or anything like that, that sudden death would be traumatic. And for them to not understand and to be in that, kind of compromised situation or their complex situation, I just think their energy and their whatever consciousness they have, I don't need to interrupt that or take from that. So that's where I keep that separation.
Yeah, gotta be professional in that environment for sure. Wow. And
then I don't think the public would want to know, like, oh yeah, she does spirit box sessions and my dead loved ones. No, there's that obvious conflict of interest right there. So.
Hey, Papa Willie.
What's up? How you doing,
up, brother? Spooky? I see you made it to the party.
Yeah, a little late. I had to wait till my kids got picked up.
Oh, that's good. We're glad to have you, brother.
Thank you. I'm glad. I'm welcome.
By
the way, Taro and T, if it's ever me, I want to know. I want to know everything you can tell me about.
Okay. We will definitely make note of that.
So, guys, I know usually about with an hour to go in the show, we start bringing other people in too. And they're wanting to have a party after this, Spooky. I've been reading the chat. They got me laughing. I was trying not to laugh.
Yeah, we have quite a boisterous...
So I was going to tell Jenny about that. If she starts reading the chat, I was trying to clue her in to what's going on.
Yeah, you don't want to read our chat.
No, I cannot see that. I'm on my phone, so good. I can't see the chat. So
good. Yeah. I mean, they're great
And
people.
Lizzie, I have no idea. I don't know what it is. A friend of mine had a little too much and stopped by my house and dropped off a pound the other day.
Whoa, that's a good friend.
Yeah, he is a good friend.
Well, I got friends like that.
This is what they're saying in chat.
Jojo, are you coming to the after party topless?
Jojo said totally nude.
We're not gonna make it on YouTube, man. They're gonna get rid of us soon. I really believe it. Yeah, we need all the PayPals and Cash Apps. We need it now because we're not gonna be around very long.
We've been on here a lot longer than I thought we would.
Jenny's gonna be turning us all blue.
Man, I hope I have somebody as kind and kind-hearted as Jenny for sure. No, we had a good experience when my grandpa passed with the funeral home, and all the people that worked there were so nice and helpful. So yeah, I can't. I there's got to be a lot of empathy in that business.
Yeah, then Lizzie, I grow, and I don't do nothing with the plant. I only pick the flowers, and the rest of it I do nothing with. I don't even know how. So you do need to swing by, pick that up. Come November-ish.
Yep, I'm getting ready to plant this year again too. So, man, I have now I have more questions too about your UFO stuff. You said you seen that one with your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever show you any pictures or anything of ones he's seen? You said he was.
Yeah, he has,
really good at...
and some of them are, you know, like there's times where he showed me a picture where there was a vessel, is what I will call it, something that you could see coming out of a big cloud formation. Like you could see the roundness of it, and there was lights around it, and it was coming out of some clouds, kind of about the twilight, era of going into from day to night. So it was really interesting. It was, dark enough where you could see the lights, light enough where you could see like the silhouette of it, almost the roundness of it. And it was in an area by the Superstition Mountains over in Arizona. And it was just, you look at it and you're like, that looks staged almost, but not at the same time. So it was when he took on his phone, he showed me, I've taken it on my phone. This was, what I was doing, because he was filming, and then he was he would stop filming and he would take some stills of various things, and he unconsciously caught this one. I think like he knew that there was something going on, but he just kind of didn't know where, and he was like randomly filming. And then so on this one, I think it was a still from his footage, and you could see that, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, did you get anything better than that? And he's like, it kind of just stayed there, and once darkness fell, the lights just kind of like dimmed out, and he didn't see it anymore. Like he didn't see movement of it going here, there, or wherever. It just kind of like fade to black, I guess. And according to him, so he had shown me things like that. But he was one of those people that also believed he could communicate with them, and through subconscious thought, through mental process of some type of communication, mind to mind. So he would tell me stories with that, but just like a big book of knowledge. And I would be able to validate some of the stuff he said. Like he would tell me things and I would kind of go look it up, do the research, and it was valid. There was nothing that really contradicted what he said, but like I said, there's no textbook to the UFO per se, right? Or to extraterrestrials per se, other than just, our experiences written. So there isn't like concrete. So it's like hard to, at least for me, to really be like, oh, that's BS or anything like that, because it's, it could be. The universe is very infinite, and we don't know everything that's going on here, there, and everywhere. So possibilities are pretty endless. And I've learned that as I've gotten older, as to where before I'd be like, oh, you're fucking full of shit. That's not true. That's not real, whatever. You're just, you're wanting to think that, you're wanting to see that. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what? Could be. If you can explain it any other way, I'm open to it. But if this is the way you're explaining to it, that's the value I'm going to take it as. And as time goes on, if I can, deduce it down to something that's scientifically explainable, then we'll go that route. But yeah, he could talk about all the different types of aliens and stuff like that. So like great aliens and the bad ones. And I was like, there's bad ones and there's good ones. All right. Just stuff that I didn't know, but who's to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think what I think about them being bad and good is that they're probably all bad.
Yeah, that was kind of, that's not one that I want to meet. Oh, so Enzo asked if I'd had anything paranormal happen where the grieving family saw it too. Yes,
good one, Enzo.
I have one experience that the family saw with me. I was doing a funeral for another child. This one was about 12 years old. And we were also, it was before I do a formal funeral, like usually the day before the formal funeral for a child, the previous day I will have the family come in and see their loved one before the funeral so they can get the first cry out without it being a public spectacle, having that private one-on-one moment with their child. And so I had the parents come in and I walk them up and I'm there with them in case, someone faints or anything like that. And we were walking up to where their child was, and and if you've ever experienced a casket for a funeral, those don't just slam close. They have hinges that lock in the upright position. You have to literally physically go up to them and move them to be able to close them. Well, as we're walking up, this one clunk. And we're like, oh, okay. And they look at me thinking like, oh, it's, something happened, breeze or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, that's impossible. So I go and I open it and I pop the hinges forward so it stays locked. Well, the mom went to sit her purse back down on one of the pews because she was going to go up to her child and spend some time with it. And as soon as she turned around, it closed again. And the dad realized there's no way that could, and he even looked at me, he's like, there's no way that could have happened. And I was like, you're right. So I stood there and I held it open so they could see their child and everything. And we all audibly heard a child's laugh behind the casket. Some may say the little boy might have closed it because he was playing with his parents. And the father later tells me he loved playing hide and seek. That was his favorite game. And so paranormal, possibly, explainable, maybe, but I would understand if the mom only heard the laughing or the dad only heard the laughing. But all three of us heard it and we all stopped and we all looked at each other. And at that time, the only people in the funeral home was me, that little boy, and the parents. Those are the only people there. Because we were having it the night before the funeral and I wanted them to come in and have the time they needed and not feel that they were being a spectacle of any sorts, getting their first cry out, saying those more profound goodbyes or whatever they needed to do. So when that happened and then we heard the giggle and the dad was like, he said a part of him felt calm, but a part of him really, really wanted to just break out crying because he knew it was his son. And so that was one of the more very obvious signs or times where something has happened. We've had, of course, I hate to say of course, but we have had lights flicker during funerals. We've had just things happen like, I've had flowers fall and stuff like that and people necessarily couldn't explain it. And it'll be just something where they would attest to it being their loved one's spirit. But the one that stuck in my mind the most was that one because there's just no way the caskets can, especially with those hinges popped forward. There's just no way that they fall.
That is intense. Thank you very much for sharing that, by the way. That is incredible.
Jenny, this is Enzo. He came to join us. He's the one that asked the question.
That was me.
Good question.
Yeah, my
man. Thank you.
fiance handed me his phone. He was like, "Somebody has a question." I was
Oh.
like,
Oh,
"Okay."
awesome. Yeah, awesome, husband.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story. It's very touching. I'm kind of overwhelmed by that. That is just
Yeah,
amazing.
that one
Now-
was a
Yeah.
that one was a very memorable one for me. Like anything else, it would have been something where they experienced it or I myself experienced it, but where that one was just unremarkably all three of us, that was the one that sticks out the most.
Is that usually the case where like only you, like maybe because you're a little more sensitive, pick
Yeah,
up on
and
it?
that's what I always think is because I'm open to it, I've accepted it. And some people they don't want it, and they block it and it blocks for them. So they may not experience it, or some really want to have the experience and they can't. Then at that point they're relying on what I say or anything like that. And I don't want to ever feel like I'm misleading anybody. So sometimes I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of feel like he would want you to know this, or they would want you to know that, and it's very, just comforting or vague in that aspect. But anytime I've ever felt or sensed anything, I'm always like, it's usually just me. But sometimes it'll be, one of the loved ones amongst the funeral that are like, I saw this. Did anybody else see this? Or I felt this. Did anybody else feel it? And it's subjective to who does. But that was the one time that really sticks out for me.
Yeah, that's actually what I was expecting you to say is like maybe you picked up on it, but nobody else maybe saw it and just kind of blew it off. But
right.
Wow, but that is just an incredible story.
And I think it could have been because, there was nobody else there to kind of scare him or anything like that. Or it wasn't because like I said, we don't know what happens when we pass, and we don't know how difficult it is to touch something, move something, vocalize, or anything like that, break that barrier that that there could possibly be between our conscious thought and the paranormal realm. We don't know how difficult that is. And so to have those unique experiences where we were just all open, or it was the right time, right place, whatever, they're very unique and very golden. And sometimes we wish like, oh, I wish I could have caught that on camera just for the sake of being like, yeah, it's real. But I think it's more intimate in those moments where, only so many few caught it, or only so many few know about it.
Yeah, that's a lot more personal that way. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
It's been a great chat tonight. And it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Didn't know about your channel, but this has been a really good talk. It's like, wow, we don't get enough paranormal like that.
Yeah, that last
tarot
story.
Channel, I don't really talk about the paranormal as much, but on my fiance's channel, because he does a lot more paranormal than I do. So that's what his channel is predominantly about. You'll catch more of it on there. And he actually has an interview with me on his channel where people got to ask questions and stuff.
Well, I'm sure it works hand in hand.
Camera. Tell them to get on here with us.
Hey, they want you to come here.
Get over here.
Just yelling from off camera.
We'll make him tell us about his channel.
Oh, the mortician interview? Okay, he'll
Do
be
we
right
have-
here. Hold on.
Do we have the link for that one?
Make some room for you, honey.
I don't know.
This is
Hey, what's
Fluff,
on?
exploring with Fluffy. It's
Hi, guys.
my little sugar plum right here.
Hi, Fluffy.
Hey, what's up,
How's it going?
Fluffy?
I
So you guys
I
do
just
a lot of stuff
subscribed to his
together?
channel today.
Sorry, what was that?
I just subscribed to your channel today, man.
I appreciate that.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you,
Do
Cassie.
you guys
Cassie just
do
dropped his
stuff
link.
together?
Yeah.
Well, he is originally from Massachusetts, and last year he came and moved out here. Yeah, in April it'll be a year. And I'm in California, Southern California, so he moved out here to be with me full time. And so since then, it's we've collaborated clearly a lot more. So every little investigation he's gone on pretty much since then, I've been a part of, because he kind of forces me most of the time. He's like, no, you're coming. But I add a different approach to the paranormal, and I guess benefits. I don't know.
Well, you've showed me a lot more than I didn't even know about, and how to actually go about filming and talking to spirits.
Just a different approach that he's appreciated.
And that one I won't forget is the jail.
Yeah, we had an experience at the Gila jail in Globe, Arizona. And he won't forget it because it was the one time like our equipment was just so validated.
It's just how they communicated back with her, because they wanted her help because they knew that she can help.
Yeah, he was like, I've never seen equipment communicate with one person, like target one person so specific. And I was like, welcome to my world. It happens a lot, And so he's had to experience that where he's like, if you go someplace with her, you're gonna have an experience. She's gonna be fine with it. You're gonna freak out. And I'm
I
like,
only freaked out the first time. The second time we went,
then he
she
was used
showed me
to
how
it.
to use the spirit box correctly in AM instead of FM.
Oh,
and in
spirit
reverse.
box.
Yeah, he was using it the way everybody else uses it, and I was like, here, let me show you how you're not going to be able to mess this up, or you're not going to have somebody tell you it's wrong. And he was getting clearer responses, and he was like, I didn't even realize that the stuff I was getting may just be like the phonics that are included in an app or whatever.
Interference.
Yeah. And so when I showed him, I was like, no, if you're actually getting sentences now, they're real. And we were getting them, and it was mostly in like the women's ward, where we were like, okay, are we okay to be in here? Are we bothering you? And it point blank said,
I asked him if I could sit in one of the
and
jail
it
cells,
point
and I
blank
went to go
said,
sit down, and
it
she
said,
said no.
She's like, no, get out.
Oh,
Like straight up.
Shit.
And we're like, okay, we're so sorry.
They're like,
Like,
"Please."
if you don't want to be here, I'm not gonna be here. So
Dang.
that was that was our repeat visit. We have the first visit up on his channel, but when we went back, we still haven't put that video out yet, but we're a little bit slow. We have day jobs, so forgive us. But
No,
when
forgive
we
us.
went and
We're-
we experienced, he said he felt like a more understanding investigator after that. And having these spirits actually remember us when we came back was really cool too.
really?
And
Not only the jail, but the train depot too.
yeah, and some of the stuff that I uncovered at the train depot that's also in Globe, Arizona. They're about 2 or 3 blocks away from each other. He was like, there's no, like, we told the curator, like, this is what we experienced, and she's like, there's no way she could have known that. Like, that's just recent stuff, like, that isn't even out there yet. Like, there's no way she could have known. And he was like, well, she picked it up. So but yeah, those are the experiences I will end up having. Does it happen every time? No, it does not. I can't go to the place and be like, I'm gonna have the ultimate experience. No, sometimes we go and there's just nothing, like everybody else, right? There's good moments and there's bad moments, but or not bad, but just not as evidential. And that'll happen too. But then there's times where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm out of here. My head's hurting. I don't want to be here. They don't want us here. And I'll tell him, like,
She
no.
can get affected real easily.
Gotta go.
I can. She definitely got affected the first time at the jail because of what the spirit said.
The spirit bot that we were using, one of the Ovulus type ITC apps, and it literally said names that it shouldn't have said. I was like, we're getting personal here. You need to hush.
Oh.
And that threw me off to where I had to, like, I was like, I need to be done for a minute or two. I need to get out of here and go ground myself, because that was just, I don't know why these spirits are picking on me, but I had to stop. And he was like, that was intense. Like, there's no way. And
she was using my phone, and there was no way that information was anywhere on my phone.
Yeah, and they were like, he even said, he was like, I don't know why you're picking on my girl, but knock it off. But I think it was literally just them proving a point. Like, I can communicate with you. This is real. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I didn't take it like that. But like I always tell people, go back 3 months from the time you investigate somewhere and re-listen to your audio, re-listen to things, and think about it without the adrenaline that you would have had. Within
it makes more sense.
It'll start making more sense. You'll understand kind of what they were communicating better. Because on our, sometimes when somebody says something on our first go, our minds go where they want to go versus what's actually being communicated to us. So I've gone back and been like, oh, they didn't mean that. They meant this. And I've gotten a far better understanding of that area, that situation, things like that, reviewing my stuff later on and realizing, like, oh, they didn't mean it this way. They weren't being hostile. They were informing us. And it made more sense in hindsight versus, the week or so after collecting the evidence.
Sure.
Do you guys think you'll ever combine your channels? I feel like you guys are so compatible.
We've seen other people combine channels,
feed off of it, off of each other.
We've seen other people combine channels, and it was detrimental to their relationship.
No. Oh, okay.
So
Never mind.
If we decide to, we'll probably make a conjoined channel, but as of right now, we keep our channels separate
keep
because she
things
does her
separate.
tarot and I do my paranormal, and that's two different communities.
And it's
and the paranormal is it as of now it's been a lot more saturated than it was before.
Yeah.
So
For
so
sure.
I kind of let him do his own thing though. I always told him that was your channel before me, and if anything should happen, he should still be able to use and enjoy his channel just as much as he ever did. And if it's something that's too conjoined, there's memories and emotions, and he would just drop the channel or, not use it as much. And I don't want that for him. So I've told him, keep your channel. I'm in his banner and stuff like that. You'll catch little glimpses of me, but it's nothing that can't be altered out and cleaned up.
I thought about making a conjoined channel. We just haven't really sat down and done it yet. Eventually we will.
He pushes for it more than I do. And I'm like, no.
It seems like it'd be a good idea to me. I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Because between your tarot and my paranormal stuff, it could work.
We'll see.
Well, you're already reaping the benefits. If it doesn't become official in a channel, you guys are already.
But he is combining efforts with another YouTuber right now, so he's got a lot on his plate.
Oh yeah.
I'm
one woman at a time.
It happens, right? And that's kind of the way I push for it.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Enzo. What were you gonna say?
Earlier, you said you went back to a site a second time, and you said that they recognized you. How exactly did that work? Were they calling you by name, or how did that work?
It was,
her, not me,
not him, but me. Where they were like, "Hi, Jenny." It was crisp and clear on a spirit box.
Wow.
And I was like, and I just stood there.
It
we
caught her off guard because she wasn't expecting that to happen.
I was just walking. We had other people with us. Like we had invited two other people with us to experience. This was one person's first collaboration with anybody else, and another person's first investigation ever. So I was like, yeah, go investigate, have fun, go. And I was downstairs, and the rest of them were upstairs. And then when I went upstairs, to kind of see how they were all doing, the spirit box goes, "Hi, Jenny," and I was like, well, hello. God. Which one are you? Like, but I'm one of those that, like, he even said, when you go into a place, you start asking really obscure questions, and I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, when you went into this one cell block, you asked, "Are you in pain?" And I was like, they responded like there was a full back and forth, total conscious conversation going on for about 5 or 6 sentences. And he was like, "Why did you ask that?" And I was like, "I don't know. It felt like they might have had a painful experience of some sort, physical, mental, whatever." Well, I mean, it was a really horrible jail. So probably a lot of them had these horrible experiences, but for whatever reason, that particular one, I was like, "Are you in pain? Like, what's going on?" And they're like, "Yes, burning, things like that." Well, it's in Arizona, so in the summer, there was no AC in this jail. They were probably stifling hot in there. So I think this one was having, this conscious recollection of being in there in a very, very hot summer. So I was like, yeah, he's in pain. He's starting to feel the physical fatigue of, the dehydration and all that. And that's kind of what I felt like. I had muscle fatigue. I had a really bad headache sitting in that cell. And that's what I was getting.
It's not a big jail. It's very small.
It's very small.
It had 3 floors. And one of them was partially the woman's ward, and the other part was one cell with for a guy.
It was sick bay.
Sick bay, yeah.
And
then they had the isolation room.
Yeah, it just wasn't big. It was not big at all. So
small place.
Yeah. And they overstuffed it and overcapacitized it. And it was actually closed down for being considerably inhumane. So imagine a jail being closed down for inhumane circumstances. There was one toilet, the whole jail, because they didn't keep up with the plumbing. They didn't even really feed them. There was no kitchen in this jail. They had to get meal service from a local restaurant that brought over what he could, because there was no meal preparations in this jail.
My God, that's
it was
horrific.
insane. Like, the conditions were just horrible. And so, yeah, all the people that were in there that must have been housed in there did not have any type of good or humane experience whatsoever. So going in there, it's a lot, especially the second floor. You'll feel the energy become so dense. It's just very gratifying. Like, it really pushes you downward. and you just kind of, you can't help but feel it. Even somebody who isn't sensitive would feel it. And having those
Amazing.
spirits like recall me, and I think part of it is because I was hospitable. I guess
You weren't to the point. I mean, you were, but you weren't aggressive with it.
I'm very I have my boundaries. I'm upfront, but I'm not aggressive, and I won't be aggressive to a spirit. It just, I don't care how horrible of a person they were. It's not in me. I mostly am like, no, I'm strong too. You might be able to mess with me, but just know I have my boundaries. And I think they respect that. And so to them, it was memorable for whatever reason. And they were able to recall me.
Honest, but not antagonizing. Is what it sounds
Thanks,
like.
Sonny. It seems like you're also approaching it with a
Feels
whole
better.
sense of empathy rather than a science experiment like
Yeah.
some people do.
I come at it from that approach more. Yeah.
Did
This show just went from PG to X.
I haven't even said anything yet.
Can I ask you a question? What if you were to give someone advice that has had experiences similar to yours where they feel things like that and things come to them, but they're very afraid of getting that feeling again, but they're curious? Would you have any advice to someone on how to handle themselves in that situation, or if they're just interested in entering it?
You asking for a
I would say never go to a place where you feel you are in danger. You feel vulnerable. If you're wanting to go to re-experience it, research the area, research the place, kind of have your bearings up. If you believe in crystals or anything like that for protection, get yourself some jet. Jet helps a lot with negative spirit deflection. Try to go in there with the approach of, I'm here to communicate. I am not here to be aggressive. I am not here to antagonize. I am just here to know who you are, know what's going on. Go in there, because I always feel like you'll get out of it what you put into it. If you go in there threatening a spirit or anything like that, or the energy within a place, it might backlash on you. But also, I've never met anybody who wants to talk to somebody who's talking shit to them, other than in a bad way, So I look at it like that, get your, like I said, get your bearings together. Go into places that you have some sentiment of understanding about. And, if you are afraid,
jump in.
Yeah. And if you are afraid, it's okay to be afraid, but just know that you have to be able to ground yourself. And you have to be able to know that you brought yourself there and you are going to experience something. And if you do experience something, just know, like, I've come in here as prepared, and I mean no harm, and hopefully no harm will come to you. But it is one of those things where it's not a science that we're fully aware of yet, if there is a science behind it, and you just are kind of taking what comes. And sometimes we walk away with more than we bargained for. It happens to all of us in the paranormal. But I don't tell anybody not to, unless I know that they are just in a weakened state of vulnerability. Then I don't recommend it at all, because anything can happen.
Some good advice. Earlier, you mentioned that using the spirit box, you were having a full-blown back and forth conversation for several minutes. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. Is that something that
an intelligent conversation?
Is that something that you can do yourself, or is that it was just that particular location? It was so active.
It's happened a couple of times. I don't know what I do, if there is anything I do to promote it. But there, like, even he was holding the spirit box, and like everybody around there just had their jaw dropped because they were like, this is like an intelligent conversation.
Yes.
And like I said, it went back and forth for maybe like 5, responses, but it was interesting. Like, even as it was happening, I was like in shock, but continuing.
It was in reverse too. It wasn't
FM,
it was AM.
It was AM in reverse. So there was just no way like these straightforward, clear dialect would have come through. And I just sat there and I was like, let's take it for what it is. And it was basically, just what do you need from me? And it was help. What can I help you with? And it was neck, neck pain.
Oh,
and
neck.
I was like, your neck's in pain? Well, this particular jail used to do hangings out by a hanging tree.
That would be a neck problem.
So
yeah.
that would be the neck pain. And it's just like, and then it was like, it was help me. And I was like, well, how would you like me to help you? You're not bound here. You can leave, right? And it was, no, help. And so, and it kind of just trailed from there, and it just blinked off. Like they basically got tired of hearing me say the same shit, I guess. But it was very interesting to have that back and forth. It was interesting.
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever heard of
since, that. But that was a genuine.
So just that one time. That's still pretty amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I wish I had the balls like that, but I just don't.
I mean, you do, but just they haven't dropped yet.
When
you haven't really had
you couldn't pay me to do this stuff. Like I was so traumatized. Like my siblings traumatized me with this stuff because they would have
I mentally want to, but I
parties. And I would sit there and be like, "Oh my god, the ghosts are gonna get me." I was mortified of stuff because I was always told, ghosts were bad. Right. They're monsters or whatever. So the idea of a haunted house scared the shit out of me. And then one day it just didn't. And I did it, and it was almost not second nature, but it's a calling. It literally has to be your calling, or it just doesn't happen. It's not organic. So,
was there a particular event that was that turning point for you, or
kind of? Yeah.
It just?
It was at that point where I was like, I could do this. I guess it's like swimming in the deep end. You don't know until you do it, right?
Sink or swim, sure.
Yeah.
Tag team. Fuck, I'm always the worst. I don't understand this.
I'm the same way.
High five. Okay, fine, Siggy. Rude. Thank you, Sunny. Thank you for that, Sunny. Wow. All Spooky had to do was this. He's in a Tatiwawa sandwich.
Look, guys, we got another surprise guest.
Who's that?
Whoa, hey guys, you guys are all doing a wonderful job.
Hi, Chad. Wait, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Wake up?
Unfortunately, we still have to learn how to set alarms around here. So yeah,
So you're awake for the 6 o'clock show? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so sorry about that.
I have a question.
Yes, what's your question, Jamie?
Where the fuck is Big Papa's fucking overalls? What the fuck?
Hell.
I've never in my life seen you on this show without your fucking overalls on. What the fuck is happening?
I hope she would have forgotten that.
She's got a shirt with buttons
Sorry,
on.
I came in here hot.
You got dressed up for me.
I do, but like usually in the chat I could be like, Big Papa, pop the buttons for me. But I didn't see the buttons on this shirt, so I couldn't say it. Okay, so pop the buttons then. Can you pop a few? Pop 2, just for me.
Loosen up my buttons, babe.
Baby, it's getting hot in her.
Burlesque shit real quick.
Yikes. Do you go places and feel like this is
overwhelmed?
Forget it. Forget it.
Yeah. Oh,
Never mind.
Been like, this ain't fucking happening. Like, we're not doing this. And he'll be like, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Like, you're asking me to tell you what water tastes like at this point. I'm just telling you it's a no. Like, we're not doing it. It's not happening."
If it's a no, it's a no. I feel
if it's
that.
No, it's a no. Like, I'm not going to question that shit. They have a reason. So
absolutely
I don't need
not.
to know it, And he's just like, okay. And then we could go back the next day. Totally fine. So
how funny. It's like crazy how that works.
For your
I'd be telling
date?
you, Sissy. Go in there, sissy.
But this fool, he'll walk into anything. He's the dumb bitch in the scary movie that goes up the stairs. He's the dumb bitch. I'll be like, "There's something bad in there." And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like,
"Night, Carol." The one that says, "I'll be right back,"
and then
leaves. I'll be right back. I don't think I'll be confident like that till I hit my 50s.
But he's like, I will tell you, he's a big old scaredy cat. But for some reason, in an investigation, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get me some content," and he'll walk right into Satan's asshole if you tell him that's what it is. Like, no,
yeah, that's content. It's the content. It gets to all of us. We're like, content. Get all hungry.
Like, I want to.
Chad, if you can check your messenger.
He's like so desperate to see the apparition, to see, to experience just like the rawness. Like, And he's been doing it for like 5 years. And he's like, I want that. And I'm like, okay, so when a demon flies out your ass, you just fucking enjoy it, okay? Like,
you're gonna be
as
like,
toward me, I'm like, nope, it said no. It means no. No means no.
Hey,
Otherwise, it's spiritual rape. Get your ass out of there.
I
did it once.
No.
I did it once. And just because I didn't believe you guys, basically, I got to see it for myself type stuff. So where we have our drag races at Eagle Field, this place right here, it's at an old Army base. And it's a retired Army base. It's really old. And the buildings where the soldiers stayed, they're like falling down, their quarters. And I went through there. And the room, well, I walked through the whole thing, but where something happened was this room was cleared out. I walked through this room and I get to the back, like where they have a shower. There's like a little square room where showers were. And you go through that. And there's a little hallway, maybe 8 feet long. And at each end of the hallway, there's 2 bathrooms. Okay, so I walk through the big room, into the little shower room, and into that 8-foot hallway. I turn, I go into the first bathroom, and I say, seeing all these bathrooms makes me have to pee. You hear that on the camera. I go into the second bathroom, and something in that empty room, it sounded like it smacked the wall really hard, loud. You hear it. You can hear it. I froze. I just froze, and I have a gun on my side, and I just froze. My hand went to my gun. I couldn't even turn around at first, and then I turned around, and I was going to turn around and walk back in there, and I couldn't walk in there. I was just stuck.
You're
like,
no,
and all you hear is, "Oh no." Oh no.
That's some shit he would do. He's
Oh,
like,
no.
oh no.
Oh no.
Or what is some shit you say? In
I
your
walk
videos
back
all
in
the
there,
time?
there's absolutely nothing. So I chalk it up to a possum or an owl.
Yeah. One of his taglines that he always says, he's like, nope, I'm all set. I'm all set with that. Bye. And I'm like, oh, I finally got you, huh? He has some video, like when we started dating and I was watching his channel, like just, he would be in Massachusetts and I'd watch his channel because I missed him. And I'd pick out little things in his video. Like he was in a morgue one time because he did an asylum?
Yeah, some asylum.
It was some asylum he had snuck into and went to do an investigation. And he's in the morgue and he literally goes, did anybody die here? And as a mortician, I'm sitting there like, oh. No, honey, they went there after they died. And so he's like, well, I didn't know. So I always call him like the botched investigator because he's in there like, I'm having fun. And I'm like, you're stupid sometimes. And he had his mask on upside down. This is back when we had to wear him. And it was upside down. And I'm like, bet you put your underwear on your pants, huh? And he was like, shut up.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, he'll do that where he'll like, you tell spirits to like show yourself, and like you've seen the videos where people like show yourself, and I'm like,
yeah,
if I was
like,
a spirit.
What's his last name? The Ghost Adventure guy. He's always like, show yourself.
Oh, it was Bacon.
I'm here. Do something.
Yeah, they're like
starting a fight.
Like, and I seen
He's
new people,
he's a
like,
paranormal
relatively new
dick.
channels doing that too, and I'm like, you don't want none of that.
I don't do that anymore.
You gonna come out with your eyeballs coming out your face or
No,
something?
yeah. I think when he dies, he's gonna be bullied in
and I was like,
realm. In the other realm, they're gonna be
because you want clout for having video.
Yeah, exactly.
My ass is coming home with you, pulling the sheets off of you at night, going ha ha, and you have no camera. That's what I would do.
Fuck that. Fuck that.
And I've told them, I was like, you think some of these like they'll go to like some people go to these old places from like the 1800s, right? And they're like, okay, make my K2 light to red. And I'm like, these spirits have no fucking clue what you're holding in your hand.
Yeah.
And you're telling them to, talk into this. And they're just like, what's this? I don't even know what the hell you're doing. You're scaring the ghosts at this point, like.
You're just making them laugh.
You're just making them like intimidated
you're
in weird ways. They're like, why do you have this light thing? I don't know anything about lights, And I'm like, you have to kind of explain to them because they don't know and they've never encountered one of you before. So you might want to tell them what you're doing. And that's also how I open communication is like, can I turn my light on? This isn't going to harm you. This is just for me to see. And I explain what I'm doing there, why I'm there. And I think maybe that's why I get a little bit more of of a conversation back, or why I get a little bit more response. Not much, but some. And it's because I'm kind of like, hey, I know this is kind of creepy to see, especially in these older places from like the late 1800s or whatever. They have no concept of a flashlight. They're like, what is that? It's scary. You're the monster,
But I think we all kind of ask those dumb questions like, can you touch my K2? Can you talk to the spirit box?
And you can always tell a seasoned person versus an investigator versus someone who's just starting off and all they know is YouTube videos, because they come in there and they're like, with the K2, and every time it goes off, they're like, it's paranormal. And I'm like, are you near any power lines? Are you near any type of devices that are going to set that off? Oh, I had people pissed off at me, and I could give a fuck less. I sit there and be like, what that's for, right? It monitors electromagnetic fields, like your phone,
like everywhere,
like your Apple Watch that's in your fucking hand right now. And I'm sitting there like, and if you ever see this where you say something and you're the asshole in the chat, I don't care if I am. So I will sit there and call your shit out.
Helping him out. You're helping him out.
Yeah, and I'm
You're
like,
not the asshole if
like,
you're
this
right.
moved, this fell. And I'm like, no, it fucking didn't. It didn't fucking move. You wanted to move. It didn't fucking move. And
they blew on it.
And I was like, it's at an angle already. So if it moved a little bit, that's called gravity. Like, do something that can't be debunked, and then we'll talk paranormal.
Lizzie said that's the Capricorn spirit.
It is. It's my Capricorn spirit, where I'm like, come on now, don't be stupid. I tell him the same thing. I was like, you look at it for what it really is, and tell me if that's something that you can't possibly debunk. Then we call that paranormal. We don't just sit there and go, every little fucking blink of a light is paranormal. We don't do that.
I've never done that.
And
because I know it's not always. It could be,
and I've seen a lot of
faulty electrician job done, or whatever.
That's why we do butt stuff for sure. Same reason.
I see so much of that. I'm no expert. I never claimed to be, but there are just certain things where I'm like, do you know the technology you're using? Do you know what it's supposed to do or how it works? That will help you.
Because these are just radios.
Yeah. I was like, you want to use something that's just a radio. You don't want to use something that can be pre-programmed. You don't want to use anything like that because there's a chance.
Parting words in there, right?
It's just and like a lot of people want to sit there and be like, no. I'm having an intelligent conversation. I was like, with a pre-programmed ITC device. Yeah.
I've stopped using those. I used it just to see how it would work.
I told him, take a standard just voice recorder. And if you can catch something, we'll talk.
And I use this in reverse. Either this or the recorder.
It's just a standard Radio Shack radio. And he puts it in reverse. And
where are you getting shit from Radio Shack?
And there's no white noise.
He stole it from an old man.
No.
There's like maybe like 3 Radio Shacks left.
This
in
is like
all of America.
That is hard to find. I actually found that on eBay.
What is this from like the 80s?
80s, 90s,
probably.
Something like
that. I guess.
But you know what? That old school technology, before anybody started messing with shit to make it work better, that's the stuff you can rely on. You can better rely on than, blah, 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 made this specifically to look for ghosts. Okay, well, then they've probably embellished it so it'll work better, so you'll tell your friends and then they'll buy it too. But, I try to go old school as much as possible, especially in places that are speculated to be haunted beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm like, okay, then we'll catch something on bare bone stuff, right? And I try that. I try some modern stuff too. But I try to catch it where it's just really, really raw and really, really unfiltered, because that's the best stuff, right? So that's what I go for.
Respect for that. Hardcore.
Have either of you been on an investigation?
Recently, within the last year and a half, it's just the old school recorders. Occasional spirit box. I don't like to use the K2 much anymore, just because it can go off for anything. Cell phone in your pocket, any lines or stuff underground, power lines underground.
I've had it be, we went back to the Gila jail. We turned the circuit breaker off, killed all the power in the building, right? And the K2 was still going off. But one thing I did notice is that the K2 went off in a specific area at a specific height, no matter what, both times that we had been there. And I was like, well, that's bullshit evidence. Now you can't use it. There's no way. There's something there. We can't figure out what it is, but something's there and it's not paranormal. And so somebody else that investigated found that evidence too. And they're like, no, you need to take your K2 right here. And I was like, you know that even metal can house electromagnetic fields.
Yep.
So your K2 in a place that has metal bars, iron bars, you know, there might be copper nearby, you don't know, is going to have a detection. It's really hard. Know your science. Know the tools that you're using. And when
Basic
you can't
science
explain
too,
it,
right?
then you can
and their
use it.
limitations.
I still learn every day from her because the amount of stuff that I know now, I probably wouldn't have known 3 years ago. I didn't know 3 years ago.
I research everything.
Yeah.
I just do that. I am a research
she-
whore. I research everything.
If she hadn't come into life, you'd have been one of those YouTubers. Have you guys ever
care?
have you guys ever done an investigation where you ran across something? It's like, nope, we're out.
No.
He would have if I was with him. Like, he's been places where I'd have been like, I'm done. I don't want any part of that shit. But he will go, like I said, he's one of those that's like, I'm gonna go and get it. You know, he's the dumb blonde that's running up the stairs from the serial killer, you know. Or if you hear the noise, he's like, "Ooh, a noise!" You know, like, you won't get yourself killed one day, is what I tell him. Like, one day you're gonna come out and go, "There was something back there," and I'm like, "Yeah, we know, we heard." But he's like, me, I would have walked away from it. Him, he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna go get that content, or I'm gonna find the ghost." And running down some stairs, almost fell and broke your ass, but I got the content. And I'm like, all right, cool.
I'm in the hospital, but I got it.
I don't think
that morgue.
I don't think JoJo's here. Because if
JoJo,
JoJo's
show your
here,
face.
we would hear him breathing. There's no way he's, you know what I mean? Like, he turns it on before his picture. I think that's a JoJo imposter.
Oh,
could
Chad, I
be.
have an overlay for you. I'm going to send you in Discord.
That's not
for
Jamie always gets.
Oh, sorry, wrong channel. Well,
That's what
you
I'm here
have-
for.
You're in the
I'm here
back
for the
end, right?
laughs. That's all I have to offer to the world is just my horrible humor.
I love it.
I just saw Bree's name. That's hilarious.
The goat for Ukraine.
The goat for Ukraine.
It says
I
Bree
know.
the goat, and then it's goat for Ukraine.
That's pretty good. I like that.
You're lucky that you weren't here, chat, earlier because I was wildly inappropriate in the chat. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
What?
Oh, really?
Spooky didn't fucking
would've
crack
thought.
about. I swear to God,
Would've
he
thought.
had his screen full screen, purposely not reading the chat. Like he was trying so fucking hard to not read
Oh,
it. Like I
yeah.
could see his eyeballs, like trying so hard to pay attention.
It's like they're being dirty down there.
I do.
Just another day in the chat around here, huh?
Spooky is usually my easy target. I could literally say anything and Spooky cracks. But I think with just Sunny and Spooky here, he was trying very hard to like be composed,
He's
and I
like,
could not get him
I
to
don't
crack.
know this woman that well. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
I
Spooky's
know.
like,
I was
"This
like,
is a
they're
professional
poor
interview."
Yes, Jesus.
Yes.
Well, have you ever seen like some channels that are very lively and then they'll have that one guest that they don't quite know if their humor is on par?
Exactly.
I
No,
think
exactly
that's
what
what
you're talking
happens. Like, is she game? Is she game?
I'm
'Cause
always
if not,
game.
we won't go there.
I'm always game. Always. No, I love the boys. They're my favorite.
Yep. Jamie always lets you know how she's feeling.
Always.
Well, that's cool. At least you kept the vibes up. You know? Appreciate
you,
that.
You weren't here to endure it, so you're welcome.
She kept something up.
I'll go
let's
back and
just say
watch.
that.
I did
She
keep
worked
something up,
hard to
exactly.
keep something up.
I work hard for the money.
Chad's
Was
face.
like, haha, that one time, haha, that one time.
I swear to God, every time we come on this channel, I feel like Sunny and Chad and Spooky are like, I love them, but why have we done this to ourselves?
No, mostly. Oh, it is JoJo. How's
I'm
it
not
going, man?
inappropriate.
JoJo!
Half as inappropriate.
Hey.
Yeah, Bree, you wait until the cameras go off live and then you say wild shit.
I try to protect our image while Jamie's out here. Everyone just thinks that one time I was abducted by aliens is like
Just
totally
harasses
batshit
everyone.
crazy. I feel like half the people know when I'm in the chat that I'm like
They're not
also
wrong.
Tati Waba. They're just like, people have no idea. I'm like,
Bree said that we should make a disclaimer for your show and put it into the opening that's like, Jamie's opinions do not reflect the show.
yeah, exactly. The inappropriate
Jamie
jokes and
was
comments
very
made
in-
on this channel by Jamie do not reflect the paranormal.
Yeah,
Chop
we only
Shop.
have the one
Jamie
from Ryan.
was very
Yes.
entertaining.
That's my favorite. Jojo, I do it for you because you literally are my soul. I love you so much.
You know, thank you very much. I knew
You're
you were
welcome.
doing it just for me.
I know you. I know. It's
could
put on a
tell.
show just for you. I knew that you were laughing in bed.
I was losing it.
I know.
I'm so embarrassed.
Did you
Every
guys?
time you said that, I just could hear your voice. I'm so embarrassed.
I'm so embarrassed.
Oh my god. I know I wasn't here earlier, but did you guys play any commercials for our
We did not.
sponsors?
Not one commercial or sponsor. Chad, I'm so glad you're here.
Butt stuff.
Just in case
I
you
love
guys need
that.
any,
I
any
love
pipe
that.
cleaning.
Thank you, Spooky.
I'll never get over that. I can't. I can't.
I like breathe the back of it. Her head's just in her hands, like fucking Jesus Christ.
I
didn't do it. Chad did. It wasn't even me.
I so love the O
What?
sounds.
That-
The O sounds. I love the O sounds.
Really,
Yeah.
the sounds.
Half the
Howdy
people don't even
doody.
know that I recorded that and I didn't give it to Jamie. I recorded it and I kept it in our Canva. I was going to use it for something and I didn't. I was going to delete it, which I did not. Jamie found it and then used it for that
didn't tell her.
song. And I was just like, no! It was one of those things that I should have deleted the second I fucking did it. So now
The
every
thing
time I
is,
hear it, I'm
it was-
cringe.
It was a
Cringe.
16-second long clip of her going butt stuff, butt stuff,
Oh,
butt
yeah.
stuff, butt
I
stuff.
like that.
Butt
I had
stuff.
so much to use from.
Cringe.
I'm just gonna like take what Bree's saying and like use that for like
Right, exactly.
OnlyFans or some shit.
Stop it, you should. I'll send it to you. I
Yes.
downloaded it. I'll download it. I'll send it to you.
It's so cringe. You know when you hear yourself say something, then it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. That's that moment for me. I'm just like,
Why?
why? Yeah, why?
You know,
Well, this is
I would if there was a official butt stuff O sounds collection, I would buy it.
I know you would, JoJo.
Put that
You would
in
not
the
only
merch.
buy it, but you'd
If
be
you-
our only repeat customer.
I'd be selling it on your radio show.
I totally would be. I would
You gave me a
buy it.
good idea. I feel like we should do a butt stuff calendar.
Oh.
Like, oh yes.
Yeah, Rin, you
Oh.
in? You gonna model with us?
Bagsy's
You
being
know
last
it.
on the list
Okay,
to get
of
me
course.
We'll
butt
meet up
out.
in the desert. We'll meet up in the desert.
that sounds awesome.
Probably do a butt
Okay.
stuff calendar.
Yes. So me.
Good fundraiser for your show.
So
We
meaty.
need because obviously no one is ever going to sponsor us.
You'll get a sponsorship.
We were trying
You know
to get
what?
sponsored by Swipes a long time
Swipes.
ago. That would still work.
That would
Swipes,
still
if you're out
work.
here, if you're
If
watching,
you ever don't, yeah, you guys know what
we're
swipes
still
are?
down.
Let us educate you.
Sponsor.
Swipes are the man wipes you use after sex. Swipes.
This way for women too.
Mostly targeted
Oh.
towards men.
Okay, those are called showers, aren't they normally? Or
In most countries,
After butt stuff wipes.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you just need an immediate cleanup. You don't have time to shower. Maybe you have to go back to work.
it's
That's
really
why I
not
think
that.
it's for women because women are always like waiting for him to
It
bring
was
me
that
the
hard,
towel.
Chad. It was
Turn
that
it on.
hard.
You get in.
Well,
you get
if it's specifically for men, it needs to have kind of a macho name.
It's
Oh
swipes.
my God.
No,
Oh, no, I'm
swipes.
thinking
Chips
more like
Road, I'll sponsor your
thinking-
show. A penny a show.
I gotta hear what he
Men
has
will
to
use
say.
a
I
dirty
gotta-
I'm
sock.
thinking
Men will
more-
use their underwear. Men will use their jeans. A woman needs a nice wet wipe.
Oh, I agree with that. but I thought
Complimentary
these
lavender-
moist lemon
wipes,
scented cleansing
lavender
square.
Jamie said these wipes
scented,
were going to be marketed to
calming.
men.
She
That's
was
where the
Jojo.
girls used to go to Kentucky then. I always wondered why.
mistaken.
That got
I went
me.
there for the
Sorry.
complimentary moist lemon scented cleansing square.
Jojo, what's a good name that you had come to? Did you want to
But
come
you
up
know,
with?
that's the way it is. Women
what's the
after
name,
sex,
Jojo?
scented, though.
women afterwards, you know, you're like, where did they go? And then you hear the shower going. It's like boom, right into the shower. Don't you
True.
think?
It's true.
I'm lazy as fuck. I'm not doing
No,
that.
I'm not waiting for a good hour.
Listen, Bree likes to marinate. She likes to marinate.
Yeah, Bree's like wipe
the
me
air
down.
dry.
Wipe me
That's
down.
exactly why we
Wipe
have
me down.
35.
This has gone off the rails. Jojo, what was your name
Video
suggestion for the wipes?
I mean, it have to be something like Commandos.
Commandos.
Commando
Swipes.
wipes.
Commando.
Made by ShamWow.
No, yes.
Oh,
Hey.
Good
like
name, wouldn't
Sham
it? Commando
Wow.
You
wipes.
know, I can
People
see
that
it's
brought
like
you ShamWow have not brought you
ShamWow.
Commando wipes.
Betty
for your
swallowed
after-
binge.
after.
Sham Wow.
That
Yeah,
guy
my
can't be doing
man.
anything. You
Oh,
can hire him
oh,
cheap.
oh! I got it. The package is
balls
like
are becoming wow.
military, like what are they like the
Camo?
green and black? Yeah, camo. And then the slogan is "Your soldiers aren't going to war."
For your post-war cleanup.
Post-war cleanup. I like that.
That's really
Post-war
good.
cleanup. I like
Think about that. Yeah.
The recon
This is the
wipes.
point of no
Yeah,
return.
the recon wipes.
Clean up the
After
battlefield.
hours sign.
Yeah,
That's right.
God, guys.
we've now crossed the
Don't send your
threshold of no
troops into
return.
battle. There's
Gone
something
into
there.
the
You're
dark
right.
side of YouTube once again.
Jojo,
Hi.
this
That's
week's
us.
Jojo
The
Bongo
gutter is
gonna be
never very
wild, man.
far away,
You know,
is it?
it's like this is for your guy when he's done with the foxhole.
Foxhole.
The foxhole.
Foxhole.
You know what I mean?
I'm
This
picking
is-
up what you're laying
this
down.
is
I
what
think.
no one knows.
Yeah.
Post foxhole.
Post foxhole.
Reminds me of
Men
a saying
already
we've got in
have one.
England.
Not fair.
In England, we've got a saying when you close the door, it's put the wood in the hole.
Put the wood in the hole.
Wood? Oh.
Yeah,
the wood in the
kind of
hole. I
has
get it.
another
That's
meaning,
it,
doesn't it?
That's why you need the wipes, though, is when you put the wood in the hole.
The
No, that's-
lemon-scented wipes.
Yeah, we love
No,
to
the
put
wipes
us Brits
come
do love to
later.
put the wood in the hole. Yeah, we
The
do
wipes
like to
come
put the wood in
after
the
the
hole.
wood comes out of the hole.
Women need that
Oh my
unscented pH balance.
Well, we like to pull the wood in and out of
Organic.
the hole. You know.
Right.
calming.
I like all
Biodegradable.
natural organic. That's the ones I buy. The no scented, all natural organic. They have like a little turtle on the package.
For your turtle head moments.
Exactly.
Your vagina is not killing the turtles with this wipe. It's like, what?
Save
I
the
just
turtles.
want everyone to know, especially Spooky, that I do have a tattoo of a turtle on my thigh.
Just so everyone knows and they can put that image.
Yeah.
Thank you for that
Can that be the
information.
spokesperson of the wipes?
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I could
It's
be.
the mascot.
It should. I should put it underneath the name. They could probably
Men
actually
can just do
pay
with
me for
wipes.
Okay.
Men can just do with wipes. Women need a whole kit. You know, it's like a
Okay,
sponge.
so me
Mix
free.
with
No,
the
no,
old
no.
crusty
What are you
wash.
saying?
Sponge with
You
That's
sent out women.
Badge
You
back.
know, the
Badge back.
Badge back 3000.
Badge back 2000.
It's like one of those hazardous spill
Sorry, mate.
kits.
Bowl of water, mate. There you
I'll
go.
send you guys the link.
We've
I'll send you
gone,
the
yeah,
link.
we've gone down this rabbit hole many years ago.
Many
and
years
ago.
we
Have you?
talked about swipes, and we came up with many things, and one of them was the badge back.
Badge back 3000.
It's,
Oh.
wait a minute. Say
I
that
thought that was the
slower.
name,
The
was rabbit
badge.
hole.
What? The
Badge Max.
Badge.
Badge
Badge
Max.
back. No, back. Like a
Badge
vacuum.
like
vac.
a vacuum. The badge
The
vac.
Badge
badge
Vac. Yeah, Badge
vac
Vac 2000.
3000.
What is the purpose of your
I like.
Clean you
That
out.
sounds like an
to
abortion.
clean
or something.
you out or something?
Yeah.
Yes,
To like
it
after
is,
you're
it
done.
is,
to-
it is, it
I
is.
like
See
it.
some very
Out.
serious issues with that.
I don't.
That idea. I don't know
Not
if
in
you'll
a
get that on
person.
Dragon's Den and it'll go through. I think it might struggle.
That's okay. That's all right.
Oh, on Shark Tank. With
We have
That
there's
one,
different,
Shark
there's
Tank,
different
yeah, same- it's the
attachments.
same
There's
thing,
different
yeah.
attachments that you can put on.
Attachments.
Abortion's
the-
not abortion. If it's not abortion, if it's aborting the aborted, right?
I think I'll suck you
Just
on
went
the-
over
This is
my
getting
head.
into
Oh god, that's a deep rabbit hole right there. I don't know if you want to be going down
Oh my
that one
god,
either, do you?
Enzo has one. Enzo, how did you get one of our models?
I'm an
He
early
keeps it handy
adopter.
for his other
You
holes.
you
And
gave money
that's
to our
the small.
Kickstarter, didn't you?
That's because Enzo's a
This is
fucking
the-
scientist. I'm
This
telling
is
you.
the trial
For the
size.
smaller
Yeah, that's the
attachment on the
small
top,
size.
that's a bit big. That's a bit
That's the
big.
beginner stage.
when
work your way
Enzo
up.
is
Beginner.
done with
That
it,
is not beginner. That is.
Yo, you know.
No.
Oh, Bree knows. Look, oi, that's not beginner, mate. I've had plenty of experience, mate, of all sizes. Trust me.
beginner, and expert.
That is quite
I'm
large,
telling
she
you.
says, but no. You know.
Enzo does R&D, which is research and development.
And it's a
Totally
pain in the
hard.
ass.
Totally hard, dude. You do it hard. When you're done
Talk
with
about
it,
tarot.
it's done.
I'm going in through hell with you people.
Oh, we know,
Yeah.
we all need to have that filter on here. Okay.
I like it. I like the choice of the red and white font on our labels. Very nice change.
Do you like that?
I like it. Who chose that?
It looks like we're all bleeding.
Has an echo.
Did you choose that,
Yeah.
It's a
Chad?
horror channel.
Yep.
I hear it too.
Oh, it's you?
Who's got the echo? Let's see who's got the echo.
Uh-oh.
1 2 1 1. Yes, it's still there. I'm not sure who's got that.
Well, it's not me. I'll turn my mic off.
No, it's definitely not you. You got
It's not me. I
headphones
keep turning my mic off.
on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
That's the echo.
Let me see if it's you. It's not you. Huh. How is that possible?
Well,
Everybody else's
somebody
mic
is
off.
guilty.
The feds.
Is it you, Chad?
No, I have
didn't do
headphones
it.
in.
Me too.
Well, we're not going to point fingers at the guest, so.
No,
I
It's one of us.
never. It's one
It
of us.
wasn't
That's
me.
it.
It was the
Me.
one-armed man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God! Did
about.
you guys see what Ann put in the chat?
What did Ann say?
Ann Palmer.
I just read that. I was like, I lost my virginity, but I still have the box. Oh, she lost her virginity that was in the box, her vagina. She still has her vagina. I get it. Oh my God.
And her name was Pandora.
Isn't that from The Office? Michael said
Oh.
Michael was
I-
thinking that she lost her vagina when she was trying to tell him about having.
I'm genuinely trying to think. When?
What?
I think
Bryn's
it was
like
Meredith.
episode 7, season 4.
Yeah, yes, like,
she's all trying to categorize the exact moment.
Meredith was trying to tell Michael how she had like a vasectomy.
I think I
or she
remember.
had like
Yes,
a
the vasectomy. And it
not a
was like in a
vasectomy, but
card.
yeah.
I saw Meredith in Disneyland
Remember.
once. I was like,
You did?
Meredith. Yeah. She was recording.
I'd
something
like
when
to
they-
get back to the butt stuff calendar.
What we can
Jojo,
always bring it back to the
Jojo,
butt stuff
Jojo,
calendar.
Jojo, let's do that. Let's do that off the air. We'll do it off the air
But
when it's
listen,
not someone else's
just gonna
show.
Be the girls. It's going to be everyone that was on the show, and then
Well,
they'll
for
be
sure, yeah.
posing with like peaches and like.
And if they
water.
aren't, then we will somehow Photoshop them into it.
Ooh, that would be an abomination. We would love to sign ourselves up for that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's
We'd
do
love
it that
Photoshop.
way. I like your plan better than
We'll talk about
mine.
later, though.
Yeah, definitely.
When it's not live on YouTube,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is how long till then?
What time is it? What do we got? I don't even have my.
It's
It
7:25.
says we're in 2:02:23.
Oh boy. Well, since I'm just a late starter here, I don't even know what time you guys started today.
5.
I'm not gonna
Five.
lie, Chad. They started late,
2.5
and a
hours
lot
ago.
of people in the chat were blaming you because they thought that you were sleeping.
Well,
Yeah.
they were right.
Yeah, I agree. I
think it started at like
texted you.
5:15.
I
That never
texted you, and I
happened.
was like, Chad, where are you?
Yeah.
I worked last night and didn't take a nap when I got home, and then I stayed up and
Like
made
we all told you
graphics
to.
and
Like
talked
we all
to all
told
you
you
guys
to.
all
Yeah,
day.
we all told you to go to bed, and you did not.
Everybody was saying, "You better be there." Even Spooky's last words to me were like, "You better not leave me today. You make sure
And
that
you
you're
did.
there."
You
And I'm like,
abandoned
I will
him.
be there. I've got 3 alarms set. I'll be there. And
And
apparently,
now we're going to be going all night
Mm-hmm.
because you got plenty of sleep.
4 a.m.
Well,
hear that, everybody? You're locked in.
Jamie was doing everything she could to keep Spooky awake.
We're about to break Omegle tonight.
Oh my God.
I'll go buy weed for it and everything. I
We
want
finna put them out of
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, if you've been live for 2 hours, I mean,
Where'd Sunny go?
2.5, right? No.
Yeah, we're going into the other show right now. To be honest.
yeah, we could totally just call it here and go check out Big Willie and Kasha
Yeah.
Chris over there on UFO Garage if you'd like to. That would be awesome,
wanna-
and then we
I
could
just
send
wanna-
20 people over there.
Thank you guys
That
so
would be a
much,
good
Jenny,
idea.
for
Thank you for having us.
But thank you for being patient with us at the beginning because that
I'm
was
so
very
sorry
awkward.
about that.
You guys are the
It
best.
was
You guys are
wonderful
awesome
meeting
couple.
all of you.
It was so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Sorry, when I came, I made it go off the rails. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So,
You have
so
to
what do you got
Your
coming up
stories
next
are
that we
so
can look
amazing.
forward to? Where can people find you?
Me
Yeah,
everywhere.
This is
I'm everywhere.
where you plug your stuff. So people know where to find you.
On my
Your
channel,
Twitter.
Tarot
Yep.
and Tea. You can also find me on Exploring with Fluffy. That's my fiance's channel. So either one of those.
I love that.
So
Exploring
those
with
are
Fluffy.
both YouTube channels,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Awesome. You guys are the best.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Exploring with Fluffy. I like this channel.
Yeah, I
You
subscribe
can't
to him.
miss him. He's like
Subscribed.
the only Exploring with Fluffy on YouTube.
Yeah, I love that name, and his channel
Fluffy's
looks
first
cool
trip.
too.
And you can sit there for hours and like his stuff is entertaining, like it's humorous, and as well as
Like,
exciting and paranormal and all that.
Some of it's cringe to me because I filmed when I was in Utah for college. So a lot of my older videos are more cringe than the newer ones in the last year. So if you go back like 3 years or 4 years and watch stuff like that, I warn you, it's cringe, but it might make you laugh.
Funny.
But
It's funny.
You
It's
don't
a
have to
very
warn us
eclectic
about
channel,
cringe.
but there's a lot of paranormal on it.
You're cringe.
We know cringe. We got
I think
it
we
down.
are the
I think
cringe
people
crowd.
appreciate
Yeah.
Right.
well, then you'd enjoy it.
Found us.
I think they know from
Cringe
the last 20
fringe.
minutes. Yeah,
That
that's-
should be our new group name, the
Cringe
cringe
crowd.
But yeah, you can find me on those two channels, and I go live every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do a full live read for each zodiac sign for the week.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Oh,
very
awesome.
nice.
That's fucking awesome.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Great. And I'll
Thanks.
see you guys over on
Nice to meet
UFO
both of you.
Garage.
All right,
See you
Chad. We'll
guys.
see you there, huh?
All right, bye, guys.